In this video, we're going to talk about good and evil. In previous episodes, we have talked about the fact that you are source energy, but if you are God, then who is the devil? Expanding your consciousness isn't always fun. In the previous video, we talked about the shadow side of the Great Awakening and why we go through hell in order to seek our enlightenment or Christ consciousness. We have been stuck in this never-ending circle of duality by always trying to reach for the good within ourselves, but we fail to integrate our lessons because of the same reason. As children, we are taught that if you commit sins, you go to hell. And so we get locked into the fear that our negative feelings need to be suppressed, and therefore we create demons within ourselves that are starved of attention. A demon is a manifestation of a thought that was created through the feeling and frequency of lack. This is in polar opposition to the vibration of the feeling of abundance. You won't understand one without the other, and therefore we must manifest situations in our known reality to create wholeness. The self has its individualized demons that it has created, and we also have collective demons that we've all created as Source itself. Let's remember that you are Source, and Source is everything. So this may help you to let go of fear in order to see it for what it really is, a thought form that has manifested itself into reality. This explains the phenomenon of ghosts and hauntings. A ghost is a being that was once a living person in this dimension whose energy field has been so dimmed that it has allowed the darkness to take it over and becomes trapped. They are stuck here until someone can come along and fill in enough light to transcend the being into a higher frequency. They are not stuck forever, but this is harder when they don't know they're dead, which is very common amongst them. We have all had these experiences before, but when we incarnate into this life, we agree to go to sleep to take in the lessons. On the other side, we see Earth as a very hard school. It's like getting your doctorate in consciousness. By being on this planet for only a few seconds is one of the biggest accomplishments on the other side. There are beings that wouldn't dream of coming here. Remember, you are a spiritual being having a human experience in order to learn. A haunting is when they try to get your attention to have their needs met and therefore cause a disturbance in our dimension to take energy from others to fulfill that gap. A place can be haunted by energies that were once human as well as beings that were not, aka demons. If your needs aren't being met, this creates a gap in your field of abundance. This is where the subconscious takes over and we start acting out in order to fulfill that need within ourselves. Then manipulation takes place and can take you over emotionally. This is why it's so important to let go of negative feelings instead of shoving them deep under the surface. The term bottled up can be used to explain the large amount of stored negative emotion. Once the pressure gets too great, all of the emotion starts to spill out into the outside world and creates more and more chaos around you. Manipulation is now used in order to make others do what we want them to do, to meet our needs in a subconscious or unaware state. This is why the term the Great Awakening is being used. It explains the oppositional sleeping state that we see in the world when others aren't understanding the root cause of the primal need to feel whole. This is a temporary feeling at this stage because it was taken by an external source instead of learning why we were feeling the lack of it in the first place. When awakening starts to take place, the person usually goes through the darkness in order to see where the lack has actually come from, and therefore heal it by allowing it to come forward and breathe in and out, so to speak, in order to receive the piece of the puzzle that has been missing within them the entire time. This may be throughout this lifetime or others, as we are constantly recycling ourselves to heal every last part and merge into enlightened or aware consciousness, thus awakening from our unconscious slumber. If you learn to release that energy by going deep into why that expression of emotion has made its appearance instead of suppressing it to fit into the world, you can then learn to navigate your emotions and use them to your advantage. This doesn't mean that you will never feel negative emotions. It means that you now understand that your shadow side is just as important as the enlightened state. We all have an energy field around us that can be measured by science. Some animals use this field to navigate their place in the world. It is also how groups of animals seem to have a synchronistic movement. This is called the auric field and is comprised of chakras and meridians inside the body. When an emotional event happens in our lives, the light dims within certain areas associated with that chakra system, and now the energy is being blocked from that center. When you aren't allowing that energy to pass through, the light cannot enter and creates a hole in the auric field. These holes are now susceptible to outside energies, and outside attachments are attracted in order to fill that space. When we have too many attachments or outside energies, we are now being taken over by negative energies and our light keeps dimming. When you refuse to learn the lesson, you allow it to become bigger and the entity of illness can attach. This is because you need to feel that opposition. Say you didn't get your needs met when you were little, or even in another life. and it grew and grew. This is an example of the subconscious allowing the frequency of illness to show up in order to help you feel that you are being taken care of. You heal when you raise up vibration in that energy field and send yourself light to replace the darkness. There are many examples and reasons, so I know that this example is harsh, but the truth is, we all do this in many different ways to fulfill our traumas. It doesn't mean that we are bad or we deserved it. We just needed it to feel and see both sides in order to put it into perspective. Let me give this to you straight. We all have demons, every single one of us. This is duality and was the very reason for existing on this planet. To learn who we are, to know both sides of the spectrum. Although some choose to go down the path of negativity, they are also learning about duality. You can say the same for the path of righteousness, but remember, you can't know one without the other. Now, possession is on a whole other level. This is when the person gets locked into such a deep state of negative emotions, such as fear, depression, or others on that spectrum, that they have allowed their energy field to crack wide open and dim a massive level of their light, allowing another entity to come in and fill that gap to take it over. Have you ever heard of a parasitic entity? This is when a parasite takes over the host from the inside. All that is needed to heal this is a higher frequency to come in and slowly lift the person back into alignment with light. We have what is called free will, so there's actually no such thing as being taken over by force. Only if your field is weak enough can it be penetrated, but you have power to raise up and disallow it at the same time. Within the deepest part of ourselves lies the yin and the yang, the light and the dark, the good and the evil. If you are source energy put on this planet to learn about yourself, you also already agreed to know both sides. You have been in every position of power, the weak and the mighty. You have been every mineral, every plant, every spiritual expression. You have been every race, every gender, and every place on this beautiful planet and beyond it. You have been planets, universes, and you are the Alpha and the Omega. If you are everything, your higher consciousness and awareness can be raised up and lowered. They're all fractals of yourself that needed to be discovered and researched, and duality was your best teacher. So who is the devil? A recreation of thoughts within yourself that have manifested in order for you to grow. So let's just call it by another name to out the devil for what it really is. The ego, the part of the mind that mediates consciousness and unconsciousness to get what it desires. We all have one, and letting go of it isn't finding enlightenment. Transcending it or integrating it is. When you can look at it this way, demons lose their power because they are aspects of you. Fighting against them only creates more of the feeling of duality. Digging deep to understand why you asked them to teach you this is the key. What is your awareness on? All it takes is the realization that you have created them and they are transcended. Send them the highest frequency of love and let it go this time around. We choose the people around us to mirror our image from our higher self's perspective. We therefore choose our angels and demons to allow us to expand. We create the awareness of others in our energetic field to learn lessons. In our image means that we are directly projecting ourselves onto others in order to realize the opposite emotion in the standpoint of the Creator. The ego deceived you by denying the primal part of yourself. The subconscious takes over and takes it to another level to get its needs met. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was to convince the world that he didn't exist. Of course he does, but he is you, just as the opposition. It controls the individual as well as the collective by fear. Not being ready for change, for example, will unwillingly keep the being trapped by falsely feeding it lies about what power it does, or moreover, what power it does not have. When Lucifer fell from heaven, you fell asleep, and the veil of separation was placed upon your consciousness. It's lifting now through this process. Time to wake up the gods. If you resonated with this message, please check out my other videos and like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit the bell so you're notified when I post a new video each week. Rise up and welcome to your ascendance.